So I was asked today to speak about Advent. Advent is the 4 weeks before Christmas. And I don't know how many days, I don't want to know. But Advent is a time of spiritual observance, of spiritual practice, of preparation, where we prepare ourselves for the coming of the Christ child. We prepare ourselves for Christmas. And it is a time when we look at things other than shopping. We look at things other than what we're going to give or what we're going to get. We look at things other than Christmas cookies and pound cake, which I actually, not pound cake, fruit cake. Yes, fruit cake. I like fruit cake. It lasts a long time. So in Advent, we traditionally have hope, love, joy, and peace. And we come from there to the Christ. Hope begins because as the first practice in the practice of Advent, hope represents the recognition of the activity of God that is present in all things, in all ways. Hope, as Emerson says in his essay on the Oversoul, hope is the ring of truth, the ring of the truth of your being saying, come to me. The truth of your being saying, come to me, is the voice of the Christ in you. That spark of divinity that is the expression that Spirit has put on this planet to bring the gift that only you can bring. That's what's calling to you. It's the first whisper that you hear of that Christ presence. The first whisper. It is that voice of Christ which knows the two things that your soul primarily wants to do in this world. Those two things are to experience and to express God in continuously clearer ways of experience and expression. To experience and express God in continuously clearer ways of experience and expression. That's the desire of your soul. That's why you're here. The brother Paul said in Colossians, says, the Christ in you, the hope of glory. The Christ in you is the hope of glory. It is the energy from which you draw all the good in your life. It is the energy from which you bring all the good into the world. That voice is hope. You have hope before you have faith. You can have faith in something that's going to work, but first you have to kind of think it's going to work. If you have no idea it's going to work and you say, oh, no, ain't going to happen, guess what? Ain't going to happen. That's right. That's right. So we begin with hope. We begin with hope, knowing that the Christ presence is there. The Christ presence will be revealed. Hope is the perception of that potential good that is yours. It is the recognition of the greatness of the truth that you are. And that truth is love. Love is what you are. It's not who you are. Love is what you are. Who you are is how what you are shows up in the world. And that's all up to you. That's all up to you. Who you are is how what you are shows up in the world. That's what we look at in unity as the personality and individuality. The personality being what everybody else sees. How you present yourself moment to moment in whatever circumstance, so you'll put off the best vibration, the best front, you'll get the best reward, etc., etc., etc. The individuality doesn't give a hoot about any of that. It just is. It's the full expression of the light of God that you are, of that Christ presence. The individuality never changes. The personality, you have a different personality sitting right here than you will in Walmart in 2 weeks. You are the presence of love. We are here today because thousands of years ago, an individual came into the full conscious expression of the embodiment of that love. And we desire to do the same. Love is something that you do not have to reach for. You often hear, oh, I'm trying to find love, or she's trying to find love. Love isn't lost. Love is not lost. Love is who you are. It is right there. You are right there. Love is right there. Love is sitting right next to you. Love is everything. It's not something you have to reach for, search for, try to be, or find. Because love is. It just is. Love is you. Therefore, at the detriment of the grammar police, you is. Love is. You is. And within that isness of you is joy. Joy. Midst of your being is joy. Joy is often thought of as an emotion or an expression. Woohoo! You see somebody doing that, oh, they're either crazy or joyous, one or the other. You cannot physically feel, hear, taste, or smell joy. It's a transcendent experience because it merges with our spiritual and our physical presence. Teilhard de Chardin says, joy is the most infallible sign of the awareness of the presence of God. Think about that. Joy is the most infallible sign of the awareness of the presence of God. It is your heart saying yes to life itself. Charles Fillmore says of joy, it is the devout, joyous soul that readily makes union with a natural, harmonious expression of spirit. And in the joy of spiritual realization, the thoughts are lifted up in exaltation and praise. That's why when you get that feeling of joy, sometimes you just go, wow. That's the exaltation and praise. Wow is exaltation and praise, is it not? It literally moves you into physical expression. One cool thing about joy is it's a common denominator between Eastern and Western spiritual experience. In the Eastern spiritual experience, it's called bliss. I'm awareness, consciousness, bliss. That's a mantra, a common mantra from the Eastern practices. I'm awareness, consciousness, bliss. The master teacher and sage Ramana Maharshi, when asked a question, responded that bliss is a thing which is always there. It is not something which comes and goes. That which comes and goes is a creation of the mind, and you should not worry about it. So if bliss, if joy is something that is always there, if true joy is something that is always there, then it's an intrinsic part of the truth of you, of the I presence. The truth of you is the I presence. It's not really the I am presence. The truth of you, capital T, is the I presence. The I am is the I expressing. It's the I moving out into the world. That's your I am presence. The I presence is that singular Christ truth of you. And that is joy. One of the aspects of that is joy. Now, Master Teacher Jesus the Christ mentions that in John 15:11. He said, I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. So that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. Now when he speaks, when Jesus the Christ speaks, especially in John, because John wasn't written by John. John is one of the Gnostic scripture in our regular Bible. But he's speaking as the Christ. So we're having the Christ of you saying that he's telling you these things so that you may know joy. You know what these things he's talking about is in that scripture? He says, you follow my 2 laws, my 2 commandments. What are his 2 commandments? Not a rhetorical question. Yep. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And love your neighbor. Yeah, very good. You know more Bible than most Unity people. Love with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. Those are the 4 full aspects of the wholeness of you. Your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength are all the ways that you show up in this world. And to recognize that your neighbor shows up the same way. And when you live in that idea, in that consciousness, joy is a natural thing. He says, abide in God. Any fan of the Big Lebowski knows that the dude abides. Be like the dude. Abide in God. Which pretty much means hang out. Hang out in God. Let God be where you are, how you are. And when you do this, you will know peace. Peace being peace is the goal of all spiritual study. I'm going to say that again. Peace being peace is the goal of all spiritual study. Because when the self is realized, when the I am presence becomes who and what you are, there is only peace. There is peace. That peace that passes understanding becomes your peace. There's no judgment or discernment, no fear, no duality of good and not good. There's only peace. In hope, there is peace. In love, there is peace. In joy, there is peace. Now, the everyday idea of peace is absence of conflict. You and I both know there can be an absence of conflict, and you ain't necessarily at peace. That's because the majority of our lives we're wrapped up in the machinations of the mind. Most of our interactions with this physical world are not in the physical plane. The majority of your interactions on the material world are based in your mind, in the greater invisible world of your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions. And left to its own devices, the undisciplined mind can have a field day. It has a tendency to evoke and create scenarios, evoke feelings, emotions, and subsequent actions that are based on very little truth, if any truth at all. It tends to build mountains out of molehills, so to speak, and sometimes it builds mountains out of nothing at all. This is what happens when the mind is your master. The key to spiritual study, especially in unity, is to become the master of your mind. The mind is meant to be your servant, not the other way around. The mind is meant to be your servant. Charles Fillmore, in Revealing Words says that harmony and tranquility are derived from the awareness of the Christ consciousness. Peace is the experience of a realized spirituality, the experience of consciously abiding in spirit. How do you learn to do this? When you're in Walmart 2 weeks from now? In your day-to-day life. That's how you learn to do this. It's called being a householder. In the Eastern teachings, it's called being a householder. One of the great questions they always ask the sages is, how can I become realized? How can I gain awareness if I'm not sitting here in the ashram every day and sitting at your feet and listening to you? The answer that is generally given is the greatest ashram in the world is the world. To go out and be in the midst of it. To practice what you learn. To be the truth of who you are. To learn to be that presence of spirit in clearer and clearer ways in the midst of the cacophony that life throws at you. We all know the story of Jesus creating peace when he calmed the seas. Do we not? And he stood up and he said, "Peace, be still," and the seas which were raging lay down and were peaceful. You know what was happening before that? You know what he was doing? He was sleeping. Yeah, you can, you can read it in the story, but it says he was asleep on pillows in the stern of the boat. And all the guys, they were freaking out. They thought, we are going to die. And so they had to wake him up. And he woke up and said, "What's your problem?" "Peace, be still." Probably went back to sleep. That's what we must do. When we're in the middle of the storm, we have to go to the Christ. Wake that Christ up. Because the Christ is right there. The Christ isn't bothered. Jesus was sleeping. He was not concerned. He wasn't bothered. He was cool. He was at peace. And if we awaken that Christ within us, that Christ will bring peace. That Christ will bring the answer. The answer for whatever is always found in peace. Have you ever come across an answer while your mind is going all haywire? No. There comes a time when the mind lays down. There it is. The answer to whatever it is, whether it be big or whether it be small. And in practicing in our day-to-day, we learn how to do this for when something big comes up. Hope, love, joy, and peace. All of these are ways to know that Christ's presence. I've seen the observance of Advent. This is just something I came up with last week. So y'all the first ones to hear this. Any of you ever done the prosperity programs? 4T, Keys to the Kingdom, yada, yada, yada. Practice of Advent is like the prosperity programs. Because when you do prosperity programs, you're practicing forgiveness. You're practicing generosity. You are releasing and letting go. You are going forward and putting out the good that is yours to put out. What you are doing is you are living in the way that you are meant to live. You are doing it consciously. You are doing it on purpose. And what happens? Life gets better, does it not? Yeah, it gets better. Things start to happen. Things start to happen because you're working in the consciousness that you are meant to work in. The same thing with Advent. As we study and we contemplate and we try to bring these aspects of spirituality out into our lives, we are living how we are supposed to live. We are living with the acknowledgement of hope and faith. We are living with the acknowledgement that we are the expression, full expression of love. You are living with the acknowledgement that joy is there in every moment. And you are living in peace, not caught up in the turmoil and the hubbub and the this and that of fear in the world. And as you do that, you know what happens? The Christ birth. The birth of the Christ as you happens. That's what this study of Advent, that's what this whole season is about. It's about preparation. It's about getting yourself ready to become a realized being, dare I say that? It's possible for each and every one of us sitting here. For you to become a realized being. So friends, let this be the reason for the season. Let this be your reason for the season. Know hope, love, joy, and peace as life itself. Do these things to have that Christ of you be born anew into the greater awareness and the more clear expression and experience of the truth that you are. Let it be born. Let it be born as the itty-bitty 6-pound baby Jesus and grow into the full expression of the Christ that is you. The full expression of the Christ that is here to do what is yours to do. God blesses you.